Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier, the DRFBets race of the day for Friday, April the 4th, race number 9 at Keeneland. It's the Grade 3 Transylvania Stakes. $150,000 is the purse, and for our loyal DRF race of the day viewers, a money back race of the day promo on promos.drf.com. Bet $7 to win on any horse in the race of the day in April. You can bet the horse of your choice. You don't have to bet either one of our top selections, and why would you want to? Players must use bets.drf.com or the DRF iPhone app, and if your horse finishes second or third, we'll give you your $7 back. Let's sink our teeth into the Transylvania, race number 9. You can access free formulator past performances on the race of the day event page at drf.com. Download them. You're going to handicap along with us as we take the field in post position order. The number 1, the Black Album, was very game, winning the Group 3 Prix La Rochette 2 starts back at Longchamp. That race over good to soft going, and that might be key on Friday because we're expecting some wet weather in Lexington, Kentucky. The Black Album in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf just caught a tough field, didn't get an ideal trip, and that race has already produced 3 next out winners. Oh, did I mention Lasix On?
I was going to say, I think this is a really nice horse and a nice field that he exited that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. You brought up some like at Hot Brown. The 5th place finisher was the next out winner on dirt with a low 80 buyer. I think the winner of that race, Line of Duty, is going to be very, very good. The Black Album, I expect him to run well in here. It's going to be interesting to see how Jose plays this thing because breaking down on the inside, he's not a burner by any stretch of the imagination. I know he was relatively close in that run 2 starts back, but they went an honest pace in the Breeders' Cup. He was well back. I would imagine with some of the other horses drawn relatively close to his outside that have a little bit more early foot, I'd imagine Jose takes back, tries to work out some kind of, I won't call it the pocket, but saving ground and then eventually tipping out on the far turn. If he doesn't run well here, I hope they at least just get a decent run out of him and he moves forward because I think he could be a good one. I
think one of the horses that should be close to the pace is the number 2, On the Way to Neverland for the great Wesley Ward. Johnny Velasquez picks up the mount. On the Way to Neverland answered some serious questions last time out. There were questions about whether he had enough pedigree to go 1 mile and a 16th, and he handled it very well, albeit over the polytrack surface at Turfway Park. He has won around 2 turns at Gulfstream on turf. He seems like a real honest horse, and Ward over the past 3 years with 3-year-old last out winners moving from synthetic to turf, 44% winners and an ROI of almost $4.
Yeah, he just seems like a quality horse, doesn't he? He hasn't done anything wrong in 4 lifetime starts. They've shipped him basically all over the place. He's run 4 different tracks and 4 lifetime starts. I don't think this is going to be an issue for him going up against this group. You brought up that sort of early speed of the tactical ability. I expect him to be forward. I just there's a part of me that would almost rather someone else just goes out there and makes the front and he can sit off as a target. If he goes out there to the front, I don't know that it would be the end of the world, but I personally would prefer to see a target for him to sit off of.
The number 3, Go Away, scored from off the pace last time out at Tampa Bay Downs. Thought he had enough pace to rally into that day. Thought he had a really nice trip as well. The good news is all of his turf races are good, including one over soft ground at Keeneland last year as a 2-year-old. He just seems a little bit slow on figures.
A little slow on the buyer scale. That most recent time form rating is a little bit kinder. I think you can kind of compare that to potentially a mid-70 buyer, depending on which one you want to look at. Having said that, he still does look a little bit on the slowish side, considering he's run a couple times as a 3-year-old.
Number 4 is Avies Flatter. This horse won the Cup and Saucer Stakes over yielding ground at Woodbine as a 2-year-old and then scored on the synthetic surface, the Tapeta in the Coronation Futurity. Now, the Coronation Futurity has not come back a strong race yet, but Avies Flatter goes off the layoff for a very shrewd trainer in Josie Carroll. Do you see Josie Carroll having Avies Flatter fit for this race, or do you think this is a horse that might be sort of preparing for the Queen's Plate a little bit later this year?
Well, I'd say 100% prepping for the Queen's Plate, but there is a part of me that thinks that there's a chance that the connections want to see what they have here and where he stacks up with some of the United States contingent on grass, because there are a ton of big races between now and then. And, you know, I think that's the other thing, too. We talk about these these Queen's Plate types and they go down to Florida for a while over the winter, the Queen's Plate's not till July.
That's right.
Still a long way to go before that race. You still have some opportunities to get out there, make some money, and win some nice races. I expect him to be ready to go. Is he good enough to run with these types? We'll find out here on Friday.
Number 5 is Weekly Call, and he tried a good 3-year-old in another twist of fate in the El Camino Real Derby, and that just doesn't work out for him. That horse, of course, coming back to run second in the Sunland Derby with a 94 Buyer's speed figure. This horse probably a little bit better on turf, but the lone win came for the $80,000 maiden claiming tag. While the Buyers are creeping the right way, he still needs to prove he fits with these types.
Yeah, getting back to the grass probably helps his cause, but I agree with you. Just from a numbers standpoint, he looks like he's a little bit on the light side.
You and I are fans of the number 6 Dumph, who is a stakes winner sprinting at Churchill Downs and stakes placed going a mile at Remington Park. Wasn't disgraced in the Tampa Bay Derby, only beaten 4 lengths, and he's going to try turf for the first time. Now, his sire, Temple City, a good turf horse, gets 10% winners with his first-time turf runners. Don't see a lot of turf on the bottom of this pedigree, not enough to get me that interested, but I'm curious to see what the DRF Clocker Report's going to have to say about Dumph, because I've had some people tell me that the most recent workout on the main track at Keeneland was excellent.
I tell you what, like you say, you and I have liked this horse for a little while. I still keep the faith. I'm just not totally convinced that this is where he's going to flourish on the grass. I think he needs to turn back in distance. I think he's a one-turn kind of horse, because it seems like down the lane, basically in all these 2-turn races, he's just getting tired. He's fading at the end. If you get back to one turn, whether it's 7/8 of a mile or a one-turn mile, I had earmarked the Pate Mile about 3-4 weeks ago with this horse. There's a part of me that wonders if that's going to be when he really takes his game to the next level. Who knows? Maybe he'll run big on grass. I want to see him back on the main track going a little shorter.
Horse I want to use in here is the 7 Louder Than Bombs. 2 starts back in the Dania Beach. I thought he got checked a little bit at the quarter pole while down inside, and then was second to a favored A Thread of Blue. He faced A Thread of Blue again in the Palm Beach. Again, he was down inside. He had to angle 4 wide turning into the stretch, and he came with a good, decent run. The main question mark for Louder Than Bombs for me, because I think he will get a fair to fast pace scenario to attack here, is if this turf course comes up wet, because he has no experience over anything less than firm.
Yeah, and that's just going to be a total X factor for a horse like this or anyone else that encounters the same situation. But I agree with you. I think he's quality. I think he can run a little bit. Been a little bit unfortunate as far as luck is concerned in each of these past 2 runs. We know A Thread of Blue, he's a very, very talented runner for Kieran. There's a part of me that agrees with you, where if the pace is honest in here, I think he's going to come with a bid. I think this mile and a 16th is good for him. I expect him to be right there, and 8-1. That's a very, very generous number on him.
The number 8 War Film was a perfect 2 for 2 in his career, and while his Buyer's speed figure seems slow, he's been very visually impressive in both lifetime starts, because he still hasn't figured out the break. And he has been spotting his competition a couple of lengths at the start of each of his 2 races, and he still just came rolling down the stretch to win both. Now, I thought he had a nice honest pace scenario to win last time, but he was also coming off a pretty significant layoff. This horse has some ability. I'm not sure he can spot a quality field like this in a big, bulky field, lengths or ground at the start, but I think he's going to run a lot better than that 74.
Yeah, that was my real reservation with this horse was, okay, it's one thing to do that when you're just superior to everyone else. Now, you're arguably facing, well, I shouldn't even say arguably, you're facing the best horse of your brief career, and I don't know if you can afford to give up 3 or 4 lengths out of the gate and come from dead last. Now, perhaps maybe he's just a monster. It's entirely possible. Like I say, visually he's been good, but I'm a little bit concerned that if you give everybody that much of a head start, you're going to have enough left.
Slow up the Timeform US Pace Projector. This might change after scratches, and the good news is when you visit timeformus.com, these pace projectors update after scratches become official, because the 9 Hawaiian Noises is cross-entered in Thursday's DRFBets race of the day, the Palisades Turf Sprint. If Hawaiian Noises opts for that spot, it changes the pace dynamic a little bit. Hawaiian Noises has yet to stretch out in his career. He has been working very well at Keeneland. Something tells me that he fits a little bit better in the turf sprint race. I think he's just bred more for sprint on the bottom of his pedigree, but I wouldn't be surprised if Wesley took a shot. Bejarano takes the mount here.
Yeah, I would mention it in the other race. I prefer him going in that shorter race at 5.5 on Thursday. But if he comes in here, the good news, if you're a fan of this horse, the quality is there, it seems anyway. He's done some good work. I think he's going to be forwardly placed, and who knows, that could go a long way in a race like this.
10 Henley's Joy is the horse to beat in this race. He is a multiple stakes winner on the turf. They tried the Risen Star last time out. I'm really not sure why. I think you and I questioned at the time. He's by Kitten's Joy. They don't seem to really appreciate the dirt as much as the turf. His last race, the Kitten on turf, the Kitten's Joy 2 starts back. He just had to swing very wide turning into the stretch, and I think that ground loss ultimately cost him because he was rolling late. He got beat a neck and galloped out past everybody. You could also argue that 7.5 is a little bit short for that horse. He beat Louder Than Bombs that day. But if it rains, you do have to worry that his one bomb, other than the dirt race, came over yielding ground in the Breeders' Cup.
Absolutely. I mean, that's something that you have to factor in with a number of these horses. But the big thing there is, like you say, this horse, we've seen him run terribly on a yielding turf course as opposed to the others, most notably a horse like Louder Than Bombs, who's never even encountered it. You brought up that Risen Star. Draw a line through that. But to be fair, and with the connections, I think that's the way you're supposed to do this. When you have a really nice turf horse, find out earlier than later if the main track is a possible thing. Clearly, it wasn't something to his liking. You have plenty of time now. You're ready to go for all these big 3-year-old grass races going forward, as opposed to waiting till the bitter end to find out, let's say, whether it's the Bluegrass Saturday or one of those other races. Then, okay, all of a sudden now he can't do it, but now there's a chance that we miss out on some of the other big prizes on grass. I like the way that they've handled him. He fits in here perfectly. Like you said, he's the horse to beat.
Completing the field is the 11 Life Mission, and while we see him sparring with Hawaiian Noises on the Timeform US Pace Projector, I'm not sure he's going to be really hustled out of there to duel with a stretch-out sprinter. I could see him sitting second or third. I liked his race in the Awad over Yielding Going 2 starts back. He did not break well that day. He worked out an in-out trip where he ended up 5 wide turning into the stretch, and he was just second best to favored Empire of War. Last time out, I liked him in the pulpit. He tried to steal away on the lead. I think he went too fast early, and Henley's Joy ran right by him, but he still finished ahead of Louder Than Bombs. There's some quality here, but we got to deal with a 4-month layoff and an outside post.
Yeah, the only good thing about that outside post, there's a real scenario, if you believe the pace projector, that this horse works out a beautiful stalking trip, and perhaps there's a scenario, especially if Ward's horse stays in here and perhaps finds this distance a little too testing, you could take this thing over, turn it for home. But I'm with you. You were handled by Henley's Joy pretty handily in that most recent run.
So many ways to go in the Grade 3 Transylvania Stakes. Let's take a look at our top selections for this race. I just think that Henley's Joy is the best horse, or at least the most accomplished one as of right now. And if the pace is solid, he can adapt to any kind of pace scenario. I'm just hoping that the turf course is not that wet. I'm going 10-7 in my multiple race wagers, 10-7, 2-11 for my top picks. You liked what you've seen from Avies Flatter. I thought he ran really well in the summer and only his second lifetime start. And I wouldn't be surprised if you drift a little bit off that 7-2 morning line.
Yeah, to be honest, that's kind of the only unknown for me with Avies Flatter. I think the quality is there. I think he's a really nice horse. You're right. That Coronation has come back absolutely dreadful, but I'm not going to really hold that against him because I think he's a nice horse and I think he's done some good things already. But I could see him being arguably the favorite in here in that 3-1 range. I could see him going off at 6, 7, 8-1. I don't know how the public is going to perceive this horse, but I do think there's quality here. And even if it is not on this day, you made mention earlier, I mean, the goal for this outfit here is the Queen's Plate in a few months. So I expect him to do big things here as a 3-year-old.
Give me numbers.
4, 7, 10, 2.
All right, the DRFBets Friday race of the day is the Grade 3 Transylvania Stakes. Don't forget the special DRFBets Race of the Day offer. Bet $7 to win on any horse in the race of the day this month. You can bet any horse in the race. Doesn't have to be my selection or Matt's. You can use bets.drf.com or the DRF iPhone app, and if your horse finishes second or third, you get your $7 back. Approximate post time for Race number 9 at Keeneland on Friday, 5:30 Eastern. Good luck.